We knew it was coming with RBS. We knew it was going to be bad, but 8.2 billion.
Yeah, they're always difficult to analyse these RBS results at the moment. I mean, I would say there are a couple of points to make on them. One, a lot of the miss in terms of the sort of headline figures looks down to the faster than expected rundown in non-core assets. The second thing to note is that there's no rights issue, which a lot of the bears were forecasting on beforehand. So that may be perceived positively. I don't know. The shares could be up, could be down. But I think the thing to note for us is that we still prefer Lloyds. It's a far easier stock to analyse at the moment. It's a bit more expensive for that reason. You can see where Royal Bank of Scotland are trying to go, and if they do get there in terms of sort of in terms of towards the Lloyds kind of structure, then it should be a good stock.
And you think that's a good thing? Do you this major focus on the UK?
Yeah, well, I mean, it looks like the UK economy is picking up quite nicely, and that should provide a nice tailwind for the corporate and retail banking operations for both Lloyds and RBS.
What about the European banking scene in general, and where that's going? What are your feelings now about that generally?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of our preferred sectors around the world at the moment. We feel that's where sort of they've got the furthest to run, mainly because if impairments follow the US model, they've got some way to fall, and that should provide a nice tailwind for earnings. And generally, a lot of these banks are being valued in terms of the returns they're making now, rather than the returns will be making or should be making amidst the sort of mildly firming European economic backdrop.
I want to get your thoughts on some of the geopolitical issues. Ukraine is one of them we mentioned at the top. How that is changing the context for your investment decisions. Actually, let's go with that first, then I want to ask you about Europe.
Yeah, it's very concerning. Obviously, the prospects for a sort of a renewed sort of hostilities or frotter between the West and Russia is certainly rising. And there's been plenty of talking heads reminding us recently of what happened when NATO was, or Georgia and Ukraine were rather clumsily asked to join NATO. Back in 2008, Russia invaded, and Russia has definitely got a very delicate game to play here. There have been some Kremlinologists, who've recently pointed out that the man that Mr. Putin sent to negotiate with the EU in the sort of very brief deal with Mr. Yanukovych earlier on was not a sort of classic Kremlin stooge, but actually more a sort of liberal man. So that might be a symbol that Russia, doesn't necessarily want this to escalate.